anything on this channel is alleged and, in my opinion, and done for entertainment purposes only. So let's get into it. First, they start off with Courtney and Stormy, and they are out enjoying this beautiful day. Stormy is in her slingshot, and Courtney is riding along in his three-wheel cycle. And Courtney makes a comment saying that, Stormy's always trying to challenge him, but he always got to show her who's the best. And it's fun. This seems like a little fun camaraderie, right? So they are racing, I guess, to this place to eat. And they show up and they're outside discussing about getting Stormy's mom, Miss Betty, and her aunt Lisa back together on talking terms. She wants she feels like there's been enough time that's gone by where they can work on their relationship or make amends. She said she met with her Uncle Fred, and he kind of gave her the background as to why those two are always at odds. And she said it stems from a long, long time ago where both of them were trying to seek attention from the parents. And one or both of them always thought that the other was getting more of the attention. So that's where it stems. And evidently it's rolled over into adulthood. So she thinks that their relationship is repairable and she wants to go down and try to get them to see eye to eye on things again. And so Courtney asked her, he said, well, what if you go back down? What if you go down there and the conversation goes left? What are you going to do? And her thing was, well, I want you to come with me. He was like, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to make it. He said, I'm not going to be able to make it. She says, oh, I understand. She understood that he doesn't like to be around things like that, drama, especially if things go left. He doesn't really want to be a part of that whole thing. So she said, well, you can stay back with Chaz. Even though she said, I wanted him to go, but he said, you can stay with him. And I'll go in there and see if I can get them together. She said, I believe that their relationship is repairable. So the next segment, Melody, they're following Melody and she goes off to Growing Smiles. She wants to get with the Fletchers, talk to them a little bit about the Houston trip and how they did a great job at hosting, and also discuss about Martell. Martell has invited her out, but she's not quite sure whether or not she wants to meet up with him yet. Anyway, she pulls up and she meets Mel. Mel gives her a hug. And she's like, hey, I guess they haven't seen each other since the Houston trip. And she says, I'm glad you're here. Good, I'm tired. Get to work. So Mel says, I don't have a problem with that. She said, that's good. She said, I love things like this. So she gets right into it. She starts putting together the backpacks and putting in their school supplies and helps out. She's got her God Said Go sweatshirt on. So I guess they pull them aside and Mel's talking to them and talking about how they did such a great job with coordinating the trip. She had a good time. She says it was a much more pleasant trip than the other trips they've had in the past. When they went to Las Vegas, she said it was, wasn't really a good time. And they flash back at the Las Vegas trip and you see Martell and her screaming at each other. She said when we went to the cabin, that wasn't a good time. They flash back. Martell is getting into it with someone else. I remember that they were playing some game and the guy must have got aggressive, or it seemed like he was getting aggressive with Martell and Martell had to hem him up. Anyway, Martell seems to be the common denominator in all these trips because even in the Houston trip, he was the one that was going off in the kitchen screaming on the top of his lungs at Nell because Nell was taking a side. Anywho, her thing was this was one of the better trips and she thanked them for it. Then she goes into how Martell has invited her out to meet. And Chris is like, well, what do you want to meet you about? And she says, I don't really know. She says, but I'm still contemplating whether or not I even want to hook up with him. And so they move on to the next segment. They show Stormy and this friend of hers. I think she called him Butter. in the car, and they're riding down to the fish fry. And she's telling him how she wants to get her mom and Aunt Lisa together. She said her mom will always be her mom, and she's always going to ride for her mom, but she also wants to make sure that, everything's good with her Aunt Lisa as well. And so they arrive at the fish fry and they're getting everything together. Actually, they're putting together the pans and putting the grease. And she said, I really don't know anything about frying fish. She said, but I guess I'll try it or whatever. But anyway, everybody's putting everything together for her. And the weather doesn't seem to be cooperating with what she has planned, because in the background you hear the claps of thunder and it looks like it's about to pour down raining at any time. But she says during the whole time, she said when she comes in, she goes under the pavilion and greets everybody, hugs her grandmother, and says hi to all her family members. And but she notices that her mom and her Aunt Lisa, even though they're not being toxic to one another, but they act like they don't see each other. They keep walking past each other. So she pulls them up together. And, Aunt Lisa's not with the bull crap, because you can see she's even off to the side in this frame. But Stormy asks her mother, like, how's everything? How's everything going on with you two? And she said, it's fine. It's cordial. Because I don't even think they even wanted to get into it. Their whole thing is like, you don't have to worry about this. This is not even your issue. While they're having this conversation, it was a big clap of thunder and it started to rain. And she says, oh my gosh. She said, well, let's just clean all this stuff up and move it to the Life Center up the street. And I don't know if it was her mom or her Aunt Lisa were like, what? Are you serious right now? So they pack up everything and they move up the street. And so she said she wanted to finish having the conversation. So they get to the Life Center and they look like they're outside of the Life Center and they're having a conversation. And I don't know if all these are her siblings. I know Butter was the one that took Stormy there, but I don't know who the other people are, because that one don't look like Uncle Fred. And I don't know who, and maybe that's her uncle, maybe that's her aunt. I don't know. Anywho, they all look like they're looking at Aunt Lisa. And Aunt Lisa is like, look, I am the only one that is working. Nobody else has to go to work. And when I come home from work, I'm tired. I want to relax and do me. And she said, and my husband only has one weekend at home. And when my husband comes home, I want to be there with my husband. So I guess they're going back and forth, back and forth. And Stormy shuts it down. And her thing is like, look, okay, everybody has said what they had to say. Yet I need to know what each of you want. What do you expect? Like, Mom, what do you want? So she says, she directs her question or directs her statement towards her sister Lisa and says, I just want one weekend to get a break so I can spend some quality time with my husband. So Aunt Lisa says, well, you sleep in the bed with your husband night after night. And she said, that's not quality time. And she says, well, what do you mean? She said, we got mom in the house. She said, what y'all trying to do? Y'all gonna be loud or whatever? She was like, that's not the point. I just need one break, any weekend of your choosing. So Aunt Lisa backs down and she kind of folds or whatever. And her thing is like, whatever. Okay, yeah, sure. And so when she compromises with her one weekend, Stormy says, okay, let's get a hug. And she's okay, you're asking for too much now. And then somebody else must have approached her and said, well, come on, give me a hug. And she was like, you asking for too much too. She said, I'm going over here to hug my mother and I'm out of here. And I feel like Aunt Lisa is like, y'all are phony as I don't know what. This is just being done in front of the camera. She said, I ain't got time for this stuff. I'm going over here with my mom, say goodbye, and I'm out of here. Y'all gonna have this phony mess. So she rolled out. So then it gets back to these two, Mel and Martel. And I guess Melody has decided to meet him out for coffee or tea or whatever. It's some place called Charlie Foster's or something. Anywho, she agrees to meeting and she hopes that this is not another gaslighting session. She orders her tea, Martel pays, and for some reason they zoom in on him paying for her tea. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And so they walk over to the table, and on the table there's flowers. And her thing is like, well, who are these flowers for? And he said, you. And she said, Martel, honey, we are so divorced. He said, so what? He said, I want to do something nice for you. She was like, well, it's not appropriate. She said, aren't you seeing Sheree? Or dating Sheree? And he said, I'm not seeing anybody. I'm single. Well, Mel says, "I'm dating." And you could tell, like, it kinda caught him off guard because he was like, "Hmm." He took a sip of whatever his beverage was, and he was like, "Well, I'm glad you're dating." And I was like, "He phony." He ain't no bit happy that she is dating than a man in the moon. Anywho, so he goes into this little spiel. He said he wants to work on things. He wants to put them in a better place. He wants to be in a place of peace, so they could co-parent better. And the different faces that Mel was giving him was like, "Dude, I know you lying." And he's like, "What?" She was like, "See, that's the thing." She said, "You always talking about you want this to happen." She said, "We don't first of all, we don't talk." She said, "When you text me about the kids, that's all we talk about. And it's basically about the kids. When you text about other stuff," she said, "I don't even answer you." He said, "Well, that's the thing." He said, "I've been waving this white flag for the longest time." He said, "I just want to, make things better for when we co-parent." She was like, "That's the thing." She said, "You wave the white flag in public." She said, "But you always doing stuff behind the scenes." She said, "You always doing stuff." He said, "I ain't did nothing." She said, "Yeah, you did." She said, "Even at the Texas trip." She said, "You throwing out all these inaccuracies about me cheating on you." He said, I didn't say you were cheating." He was stuttering his butt off. And she said, "You did. You said I was cheating. I was going off to hotels cheating on you." And he said, "I didn't say you were cheating. I said possibly." She was like, he said, "Well, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry." He said, "No." She said, "You're not. You're not sorry." He said, "Because you continue to do stuff." And he said, "I haven't done anything." He said, "I just want us to be able to be, amicable and, and just be able to co-parent." And she was like, "No." She said, this is not, we're never going to be at peace." And so she's, looking at him, and he's still pleading his case and talking about how he regrets everything that he's done. And if he had a thought that anything that he did to put them in the place that they are now, that his family would be destroyed, he would have never did anything. And I'm thinking to myself, this is my Rita talking. Um, what man or woman thinks it's a good idea to cheat if they're in a relationship or they're in a marriage? What man or woman thinks that's a good idea? Anybody out there? Okay. Well, I don't know what Martell was thinking, but I think he's so much of a narcissist that he thought that he could do anything to Mel and that she was going to stand for it because she had stood for it, I guess, for so long. His thing was, it's only a matter of time for her to take me back. And when she went through with everything and then she's continued to go through with anything, his thing is, I can't believe I'm in this situation. And then I don't think that he's doing too well financially. I mean, I don't know what he's working with, but I feel like he sees Mel prospering and that he feels like he should be there with her. And he knows that if he had not done any of the stuff that has led up to where they are today, that he would probably still be with her and they would still be prospering because clearly she was carrying him. Everything that he has put out there, his wine, his suits, I don't even know if he's put out suits, but he's supposed to be having a suit line. I don't know. We've never even seen anything of that. His calendar, did anybody see the calendar? Because I remember him posing for it, but I don't remember anything coming out. Maybe he did. I didn't see it. There's a children's book that he wrote for his kids. Their plane trip to Canada. Um, is that out there? I mean, I don't know. But everything that he's thrown up against the wall has not stuck. And Melody is still trucking, like sure, even with her t-shirts. Shout out to Marcel. She's got her, you know, cosmetic line. And then she's got the products for the kids' products. She has, I guess, what is it? For Sugar Mama. Even though she had to take Sugar Mama image off the bottle, but she still has the Sugar Mama line. So she's doing pretty good. And then she has her partnership with the streaming channel. Then she has a couple of ventures in the fire at one time. I guess her collaboration with the designer, because she gets up there and she, models his collection at times or during each season or whatever. I mean, she has a lot of things in the fire going on. And then she has her preservation classes. And she's doing great. She's doing really great. And he sees this. So he's regretting. He's come to her humbly. This is not the same man that was screaming in the middle of the kitchen at Nell talking about you picking a side and don't be against me because Mel has cheated too. This is the same man who said he didn't say it this time. Well, girl. Anyway, so Mel's like, look, all right. Yeah, well, you should have listened and you didn't. And she said, I gotta go. She said, I have a plane to catch. And he's like, chill, just hold up a minute. He still wanted to talk. And her thing was, just give my flowers to the kids and tell them this from their mama. And he says, well, why don't you send them some flowers? Her thing was, that's not a problem. She said, because I can send them flowers along with the food that I'll be sending over there too. So he stands up and tries to cut her off real quick and says, why are you saying stuff like that? Why are you trying to make me look like a horrible person? She said, I'm being honest. She said, you don't like my honesty. And she's like outside the door and he kind of closes the door on her because he don't want her to say no more. I'm like, I know she's not sending food over there for them to eat too, Martell. Because in the trailer for the reunion, it's talked about that you still have your baby mama over there every day with the kids. So why is she sending food over there? Why? That's right, because you taking care of your baby mama too, supposedly. Let her tell it. You paying all her bills. She ain't working nowhere. Like, you really picked a 15. They call it a 20, but she's a 15, like you said. She can't even help you with your kids. And that little dumb video that you went online with her cooking, I guess that was for Mel to show that she does cook for the kids. Boy, bye. Oh, Lord, help her. Help him, Lord. Anyway, next it is Kimmy and Marcel, and this is their date night. And they show not Marcel, I'm sorry, Maurice. I get the M's mixed up, y'all. Forgive me. They show Maurice pulling up in his sports car, looks really nice. And then they show Kimmy, coming to the door. I think she rents this hotel room for them to be intimate. They have a whole house. But anyway, they went to the hotel room to be intimate. And she comes out with this little thigh-high white dress and this little netting over top of it. And long story short, he comes in the door and he has a one rose for her, and you can see that she looked at the rose and it's like, thank you. She really wasn't impressed because when she takes him into the other room and talking babyish goo goo gaga to him, like, follow me, do. I'm thinking to myself, why are you talking to him like he's 5? That's so awkward. Anyway, she's like, follow me, and then she's got rose petals all over the floor, all over the bed, all over the table. And her thing is like, she didn't need another rose. Her single rose didn't do nothing, but it was, I guess, the gesture that was cute. Whatever. Anyway, she sits down and she starts talking to him about how she's grateful for him to be there with her and how he didn't sign up for this, and that, she's happy to know who has her back because every time she looked up, he was sitting at the end of her table, being there for her. And I'm thinking to myself, but Kimmy, he did sign up for that. He married you. In the vows, it says in sickness and in health. What are you talking about? It's like, I don't know why she felt like she needed to do this for him. Maybe he's on the verge of leaving, or maybe she's scared of him leaving her and she has to show that she's grateful for him. You just went through a life-threatening illness and was at your lowest. And yet you feel the need to tell him that I'm sorry. Like, it's like you were apologizing for getting cancer. That's how I took it. If that's the case, you didn't sign up for it either, Kimmy. You didn't know you were going to get cancer or have to battle that. Come on. Even Maurice came back sounding a little human, saying, it wasn't anything that you needed to thank him for. Thank you, Maurice, for acknowledging that and letting her know that why is she even going here with it? It's crazy. I know she explained that, she didn't always feel her best and she didn't feel pretty and she had a hard time with losing her hair, and it was like disgusting comments. And I'm assuming she's talking about on social media. I mean, I thought that everybody was pretty much in support of Kimmy and nobody said anything about how different she looked, because I thought she looked great. Even with the bald head picture she came out with, she looked pretty. She was still pretty to me. So I don't know what she's talking about. The only negative I heard about her looks came from her husband, and that was in the episode where he bought her the Jeep. And even Marceau had to say, man, don't say that. because he was talking about how she wanted a Jeep so the wind could blow in her hair. And he made the nasty comment about, well, Kimmy, you really don't have that much hair. That was the only time I heard anything about anybody's addressing anything about her look. That came from your husband. Now, I'm not saying that nothing was in the comments. It may have been because there's some trolls out there. They say anything. They don't care. But for the most part, I saw a lot of positivity when it came to Kimmy and her going through this ordeal. Because I mean, this is nothing that you take lightly. And I'm glad she's come through on the other side. Honestly, I really, I don't read that or wish that on anybody. So I'm glad she's made it through. So she also talked about how she was trying to do things to build up her own self-esteem and get her libido back on track. So her girlfriend had recommended that she do a boudoir photo shoot. And so she said she did. And Maurice was like, wow, you did? Or his eyes bucked out his head. Like, yeah. She's like, yeah. And she said, I have something for you. So she presents him with a photo, one of the photos that she took. And I have to admit, she looks damn good. She does. All hail Kimmy. She did that. She did that thing. And for a woman of her age, she's just done great in this picture. And he goes crazy. His thing, oh, I'm putting this up in my office. And her thing is like, no. She said, I was going to put this over the bed. And he was like, why? He said, that's what you two did it for, right? So her thing was like, no, not doing that. He said, well, I have something for you too. And so he stands up and he said, I've been going to the gym. And he opens up his shirt and he has drawn on abs. And she said, no, you didn't do that. She was like, you could at least use the brown marker. She said, use blue. And he's laughing. He thinks this is so funny. He's such a cornball. Anyway, so he sits down and he says, is anything else? He pulls out the blue pen and he's like, is there anything else you want me to draw on? She was like, no, I don't need any more drawings. And so she also stands back up and she says, well, I have something else for you. And she shows him her lingerie that she had bought specifically for their date night. And, he's like, eyes bucked out again. His thing is like, oh my God, yes, I'm ready. He said, yeah, I love that, Now, mind you, when she met him at the door, remember, she had on her little white ensemble. It was a thigh-high dress and the netting over top. Yeah, I don't know if the production meant to get a glimpse of this, but they did, and I saw it and I had to rewind it because I was like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And when she went to walk off to put on her lingerie, it panned down and like, why is your dress over top of your butt? Like, it wasn't a shirt, it was a dress. So no wonder his butt was excited. Like, when she stood up, that's what he saw. And you were walking around like this in front of the cameraman? Women? What? I don't know if it was women or men. I don't know. But you were walking around like this? No wonder he was putting the cameraman out. All right, time for y'all to go. Time for y'all to go. Maybe she had on a thong. But my point is, like, this was a dress. So why is it up? That kind of threw me. Like, what was the purpose of going in and putting on any lingerie? You're already naked. Just take the dress off. I don't know. She was like, well, join me on the bed and get the strawberries and the chocolate and the blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking to myself, Kimmy, girl, you doing too much. Too much. I mean, it's nice to do things for your man, but he should be rolling out the red carpet for you. And I feel like you've done it. You're reversing it. You're the one that just came through cancer. Anyway, they move on to my favorite couple, Tisha and Marceau. I think Marceau is funny. I really do. I think he's a funny dude. Do I think he's a cheater? I still think he might be cheating or he might have cheated. But Tisha comes over and he's at the house still, putting it together. Their renovations so far, I have to say, look nice. I like the accordion. I guess it's a sliding glass door, the black trim. I love that. I like the kitchen. He was putting together the stove, I believe. Anyway, when she walks in, she said, how's everything going? He was like, oh, everything's going well. And he she says to him, she said, well, you think all this is going to be done before the kids go back to school? And he said, is this going to be done in 10 days? And he was like, no. She said, "Well, you've been working on it since May, and the goal was to get it done before they went back to school." And he said, "Well, look." So he runs down his list of things that he has on his plate. The hotel that they're currently working on, and then there's another hotel that they have, I guess, in the works, and then her office, and then there was something else he mentioned. He was like, she was like, "And my office should be first priority." He said, "Well, do you want a home office?" She was like, "No." She said, "I want it to be where we said it ain't nothing but sticks up there." And his thing was, "Look, I don't this is what I have to do." And her thing is like, "You have a whole team for that." And he was like, "Look, when you don't want to run your business into the ground. And when you run your business into the ground, that's when you get things like the canvas booty incident." And I feel like that was a slap in the face to Tisha. He didn't even have to go there with it, but he did. And he keeps talking on. So she changes the subject and says, "I really wanted to talk to you about the Houston thing." She said, "I really didn't like the way you came at me after finding out that I took a pregnancy test." And his thing was, "Well, you took a pregnancy test." He said, "Well, I have had a vasectomy." And her thing was like, "I'm not going to go back and forth with you about this anymore." And he asked her the question. And his thing was, "Well, have you ever stepped out on me?" And her thing is, "I can't answer that for you." And she didn't do anything but throw back what he said to her. Y'all remember when she asked him about the 20 girlfriends that Martell was saying he had, and he came back at her and said, "I can't answer that for you." I remember that wholeheartedly. I remember that. And so she gave it right back to him. And his thing was, "You're really turning me on with this." And she's like, "Come on, Marcel." Because she was like into, being real dominant. And I guess he's never seen that side of her, or maybe he doesn't get it very often. But anywho, he liked it. So his thing, she was like, he said, "Well, I don't know if you want to play these kind of games with me." He said, "When it's not a good idea." She was like, "Well, let's play." So she turns around and leaves out. So that was the end of that episode. I don't know what to say about these two, but it's a lot to be seen at the reunion. I mean, Tisha comes with it. She's not holding back nothing when it comes to Kiki and when it comes to Stormy. She's just letting them have it. So it should be quite entertaining. Also, I think the baby mom is addressed on the reunion, and Martell is denying her again. But Melody says, "Well, the kids say she's there every day. So, which is it?" And I don't know. Martell's full of crap too. Anyway, Kiki is there, and then I think Tisha puts out some narrative about her and her husband cheat on each other and all this other kind of stuff, and it sounds like a big mess. But anyway, that's all I have, you guys. Thanks for stopping by. Again, happy new year. I will come back next week with my commentary on Love and Marriage Huntsville, the reunion, at least the first episode. I think it's supposed to be 3 parts. And hopefully there'll be some good things to talk about in the first part. Usually the first one is boring because they want to keep you there for the second and the third. But y'all have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.